Nathan Price had exactly 3 seconds to react before his triplet sons disappeared around the corner of County General Hospital's 3rd floor. "Boys, stop right there!" 9-year-old twins Marcus and Leo had already vanished. Their brother Caleb paused just long enough to flash an apologetic grin before darting after them. Nathan ran, his work boots squeaking on the polished floor, his tool belt jangling. He was supposed to be fixing the elevator on the 2nd floor. His boss at the maintenance company had been clear: keep the kids in the break room during parent-teacher conference week when school let out early. But the boys had been cooped up all afternoon, and 10 minutes of freedom had turned into chaos. Nathan skidded around the corner just in time to see 3 identical heads duck into a room. Room 307. "Got you," he muttered, pushing through the door. Then he froze. The room wasn't empty. A woman lay in the hospital bed, her skin pale against the white sheets. She looked to be in her mid-50s, with silver-streaked dark hair and eyes that seemed too large for her thin face. 4 tubes ran from her arms. Medical equipment beeped softly, and his 3 sons stood at the foot of her bed, suddenly quiet. "I am so sorry," Nathan stammered. "They got away from me. Boys out, now." "Wait," the woman's voice was soft but clear. "Please, don't go." Nathan hesitated. The boys hadn't moved. "You're the first visitors I've had in 3 weeks," the woman continued. A small smile touched her lips. "Besides nurses and doctors who look at me like I'm already gone. It's nice to see young faces." "We're sorry we busted in, ma'am," Marcus said solemnly. "We were playing hide-and-seek. I'm Caleb." "That's Marcus and Leo," Caleb added. "We're triplets. I can see that." The woman's smile grew. "I'm Eleanor Hayes, and you're not bothering me. Honestly, you're the most interesting thing that's happened to me all month." Nathan should have ushered his boys out. This woman clearly needed rest. But something in her eyes stopped him, a loneliness he recognized from his own mirror. "I'm Nathan, their father. Again, I apologize for the intrusion." "Don't," Eleanor said. "Please, would you stay just for a few minutes? It gets so quiet in here." Leo, the most outgoing of the 3, had already pulled a chair closer to the bed. "Are you sick?" "Leo, that's rude," Nathan started, but Eleanor waved him off. "It's fine. Honestly, it's refreshing." "Yes, sweetheart, I'm sick. My liver is failing. I need a transplant, but I'm pretty far down the list." "Why?" Marcus asked. "Lots of people need livers. Not enough donors. And I'm older than some of the other patients. The doctors try to save the youngest people first." "That doesn't seem fair," Caleb said with 9-year-old certainty. "No," Eleanor agreed, "but it's how it works." Nathan expected his sons to get uncomfortable and want to leave, but instead they peppered Eleanor with questions. What was it like being in a hospital so long? Did the food taste bad? Could she watch TV whenever she wanted? Did she get scared at night? Eleanor answered each question patiently, even laughing at some of them. The monitors showed her heart rate picking up, but in a good way. She looked more alive talking to his boys than she probably had in weeks. After 20 minutes, Nathan finally insisted they leave and let Eleanor rest. As they headed for the door, she called out, "Nathan, would you consider coming back? The boys too? It would mean a lot to have company." Something in her voice, hopeful but trying not to expect too much, hit him square in the chest. "We'll come back tomorrow," he heard himself say. "After my shift." Eleanor's face lit up. Really? Really, that tomorrow turned into a week of tomorrows, then a month. Nathan would finish his maintenance work, pick up the boys from their after-school program, and head to County General. Sometimes they stayed 15 minutes, sometimes an hour. The boys would tell Eleanor about school, their soccer games, the frog they'd found in the yard. Nathan found himself talking, too, about things he rarely discussed. How his wife had left when the boys were 2, overwhelmed by triplets and a husband who worked too much. How he'd been raising them alone ever since. The fear that he wasn't enough. "You're more than enough," Eleanor said firmly. "Those boys are kind, curious, and confident. That doesn't happen by accident." "What about you?" Nathan asked one evening when the boys were distracted by a nature documentary on the small TV. "Any family?" Eleanor's expression clouded. "I was married to my career, banking executive, made partner at 40, worked 80-hour weeks for 20 years. I told myself I'd slow down eventually, make time for relationships. Then my body started failing, and I realized I'd spent all that time climbing a ladder that led nowhere. You have friends, though? Colleagues? Work friends, Eleanor said quietly, the kind who send a card when you get sick but don't actually visit. I dedicated my life to a company that replaced me within 2 weeks. My hospital room has been emptier than my calendar ever was. Nathan reached over and squeezed her hand. Well, you're stuck with us now. Over the months, something shifted. Nathan found himself thinking about Eleanor during the day, picking up her favorite magazines, bringing her decent coffee from the shop down the street instead of the hospital's burnt offering. The boys made her drawings and brought her flowers from the yard. They'd figured out that Wednesday was her worst day for dialysis, so they made sure to visit Wednesday evenings to cheer her up. You've become our family, Leo announced one day with characteristic bluntness. Dad doesn't have a mom, and you don't have kids, so it works out. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. I would be honored to be your family. 8 months after that first accidental meeting, Eleanor's doctor delivered devastating news. Without a transplant in the next few months, her organs would begin shutting down. She'd already outlived the initial prognosis, but time was running out. Nathan held her hand while she cried. I'm not ready, she whispered. I just found you. All of you. I'm not ready to leave. Then we'll make every day count, Nathan said fiercely. However many you have, we'll make them matter. What happened next surprised everyone, including Nathan. He started bringing his laptop to the hospital, working on spreadsheets during Eleanor's treatments. The boys did homework at her bedside. They ate dinner from the cafeteria together. Eleanor helped Marcus with his math, coached Leo through his nerves about an upcoming presentation, and listened to Caleb's elaborate stories about his imaginary adventures. She became part of their daily rhythm, not a sick woman they visited out of pity, but genuine family. One night after the boys had fallen asleep in chairs they'd pulled close to Eleanor's bed, she looked at Nathan with something like wonder. I've had more life in these 8 months than in the previous 20 years, she said softly. Even here, sick, I've been happier than I ever was in my corner office. Eleanor, Nathan started, then stopped, his heart hammered. I know this might sound crazy. We've only known each other a short time, and you're sick, and I have 3 kids, but what? Her eyes were bright. I love you, he said simply. Not because I feel sorry for you, not because you're sick. I love who you are, how you make my boys laugh, how you make me want to be better, how you fit into our messy, chaotic life like you were always meant to be there. Eleanor reached for his hand with trembling fingers. I love you too, all of you. You've given me more in 8 months than I thought possible in a lifetime. They married 3 weeks later in the hospital chapel. Eleanor wore a simple dress the nurses had helped her shop for online. The boys wore matching suits from the thrift store and stood as best men. The hospital staff crammed into the tiny chapel, crying and cheering. It wasn't the wedding Nathan had imagined for himself, but as he kissed his bride, thin, fragile, fighting for every breath, he'd never been more certain of anything. We're really married, Eleanor whispered, wonder in her voice. We really are, Nathan confirmed. You're stuck with us now, legally. The boys piled onto the bed for a family hug, careful of Eleanor's tubes and wires. The nurses took pictures. Someone brought sparkling, cider, and cookies. It was perfect. 2 months later, Eleanor received the call. A liver was available. The surgery was long and terrifying. Nathan paced the waiting room for 9 hours while his mother watched the boys. When the surgeon finally emerged, exhausted but smiling, Nathan actually collapsed into a chair. She made it. The transplant looks good. We'll know more in the coming days, but I'm cautiously optimistic. Recovery was slow. There were complications, setbacks, small victories. But Eleanor fought. She fought because she finally had something to live for. A year after the wedding, Eleanor walked out of County General without assistance. Nathan and the boys were waiting with a banner that read, "Welcome home, Mom." She cried when she saw it. "Mom, you called me Mom." "Well, you married Dad," Marcus said practically. "That makes you our mom." The house Nathan had found for them wasn't fancy, a rental on the outskirts of town with a small yard and 4 bedrooms. But Eleanor stood in the doorway looking at it like it was a palace. "It's perfect," she breathed. That night, after the boys were in bed, Nathan and Eleanor sat on the back porch. She still tired easily, but she was here, alive, his wife. I chased my boys into the wrong room that day, Nathan said, pulling her close. Best wrong turn anyone ever took, Eleanor replied. I was dying in that room, not just physically. I was dying of loneliness, of regret, of a life unlived. You and those 3 wild boys brought me back to life before the surgery ever did. They love you, Nathan said. I love you, I know, and I love all of you more than I have words for. Eleanor looked up at the stars. I spent 54 years chasing the wrong things. Success, status, money, none of it mattered. This, she gestured at the house, the sounds of the boys' voices drifting from upstairs. This is what matters. Family, love, being part of something bigger than myself. 5 years later, Eleanor stood in the bleachers at the boys' middle school soccer game, cheering louder than anyone. She'd gone back to work part-time as a financial consultant, but she never worked late, never missed dinner, never chose a meeting over a school event. Marcus scored a goal and immediately looked for her in the stands. She waved both arms and he grinned before running back to position. You know, Nathan said, sliding his arm around her waist, sometimes I think about that day. If the boys hadn't run into your room, if you hadn't asked us to stay, I think about it too, Eleanor admitted. All the coincidences that had to align, the broken elevator that brought you to the 3rd floor, the boys' exact path through the hospital, me being awake at that precise moment instead of sleeping through dialysis. It feels like fate. Maybe it was, Nathan said, the universe throwing us all a lifeline. Then I'm grateful, Eleanor said simply, for every single day. If this story reminded you that it's never too late to find your family and that wrong turns sometimes lead to exactly where we need to be, please like and share it. Subscribe for more stories about second chances and the unexpected ways love finds us. And comment below about a time a mistake or accident led you somewhere beautiful. Sometimes our greatest blessings come from chasing our kids into the wrong room.